Hi, everybody. I'm here with Ron Placone and the Miserable Liberal. Hi, Steph.
Hello, Jimmy.
It's a nice T-shirt. Show the people.
Why, thank you. You mean this?
Yes. And you got a mug, do you?
Oh, where's my mug? It's gone.
Oh, where's the mug?
You can get that T-shirt. There's a link right there. Spreadshirt.com. It's a great way to help support the show. You get all our T-shirts over there. You can get our mugs, everything. We got lots of stuff. Thanks for supporting the show. They're demonetizing our videos like crazy. Today we're talking about, I predicted that Trump would create a fissure in the Republican Party. I said, I was just repeating some other smarty pants people's thoughts on this, that a lot of Republicans said that they should vote for Hillary Clinton because if Trump becomes president, it'll split the Republican Party. And so we've seen signs of that happening all over the place. Trump's even attacking his own Republicans in the Senate. He's attacking John McCain. He attacked Senator Flake. He attacked Murkowski. He's attacking lots of his own people in his own party. And so now, this is from yesterday. There's a guy named Jay Danforth. How do you say his name? Danforth, right?
Danforth, yeah.
Danforth, that's how you say it. So he's an ex-senator from Missouri. And I'll never forget, I was in St. Louis working one time, and he was on the TV, this guy, the senator, and he had done this big thing about St. Louis, and they done this big survey about what people think about St. Louis and what people like about it. And they asked him, what was the number one thing that people said they liked most about St. Louis? And Danforth said, they just like it. And I couldn't get the video. That was 10 years ago. But anyway, so here he is, and he's got something to say. He wrote this op-ed in the Washington Post, and he went on with Lawrence O'Donnell yesterday, and this is what he said in the Washington Post.
To my fellow Republicans, we cannot allow Donald Trump to redefine the Republican Party. That is what he is doing as long as we give the impression by our silence that his words are our words and his actions are our actions. We cannot allow that impression to go unchallenged. Our party has been corrupted by this hateful man, and it is now in peril.
Boy, that's some pretty strong words.
Yeah, and the Republicans have never had a reputation for being hateful before. They've always been known as very compassionate,
yes,
loving party.
So those are some pretty strong words. And so Lawrence O'Donnell asked him a pretty good question about it. Here we go.
We're warning to Republicans about silence. Are you talking about the elected Republicans in Washington who have been largely silent in the face of President Trump?
I think it's harder for the people who are in elective politics than it is for those of us who are out. I do understand it's difficult for people who are running for office or think they will be running for office. But I'm really talking about all Republicans. I think it's very important for us to make it clear that we are not like Donald Trump. He's very...
But it's very important for us to make sure clear that we're not like Donald Trump. But the people who are actually in office, it's very difficult for them. I mean, Republicans only speak out if we have nothing to lose. You know that, right? I mean, come on. I mean, I'm asking the Republicans who don't have anything to lose to speak out. That's I think that's the definition of courage, right? Profile and courage. When there was nothing on the line, this guy stood up and did what was right. So that's basically what he's saying. Let's listen to some more of this bullshit.
He's a very divisive person, and the history of the Republican Party has been the party of the Union, the party of trying to keep America glued together. So it's a message for all Republicans and beyond that, really for all of us, that trying to keep the country glued together is a principal duty of all of us.
You remember how the Republicans have always been the party keeping the country together. You remember 40 years of the Southern strategy, which is what led us to Trump? You know how they did that, about how they all ignored racism. You know how Colin Powell said just a few years ago, his party's full of racists, yet he's still in it. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's how you bring people together, through the Southern strategy. That's how you break by dog whistle politics. That's what we normally do. You know, when Ronald Reagan, how he brought people together by calling them welfare queens and telling pretend stories about poor people using their welfare to buy booze and driving Cadillacs. That's what Ronald Reagan did. Remember how he brought the country together when he did that? Remember when the Bush administration wagged their finger and called you not patriotic if you opposed the Iraq War? Remember that?
In fairness, the Bush administration eventually did bring everybody together because everybody realized how awful of an idea that was eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
Yes, and also, you know, how he talked about how the Republicans have been keeping America glued together, right? I think that glue was made in China.
Ha! Nice. So he says it's important, but that to let people know that's not who the Republicans are. But not the elected officials, because, you know, hey, come on, what the F? Come on, not the elected officials. We should denounce a Nazi sympathizer, but a bunch of our base loves him, so no, we can. So here is Republicans. 78% of Republicans support Trump. 7% of Democrats. What is that? And 30% of 30% of independents. This is from Gallup.
Those 7% of Democrats must be the ones that are resisting reading any news whatsoever.
Yeah, they must be.
That's what they're resisting.
So this guy coming on, this Danforth, saying that, oh, we got to let people know that we're not Trump. He's not us. Yes, he is. So Lawrence O'Donnell shows him this statistic, and he asks him about it.
Senator, you've got a difficult case in persuading the 78% of Republicans who apparently in the polls are with Donald Trump.
Well, I think there can be any number of reasons for being with him. I mean, it could be that they don't like the policies of the Democrats, or they want some. I think a lot of people want somebody that they perceive as being a strong person, and that's part of the appeal of Trump. But I do believe that if you...
let me just say this. 8 out of 10 people in your party support the guy you're saying Republicans should stand up against right now. 8 out of 10 people in your own party. This is your party. That's what 40 years of the Southern strategy does. That's what 40 years of race baiting does. That's what it does. So this is who you are. But he keeps trying to pretend this isn't who we are, even though you guys elected him. And every Republican in power stood behind the guy. And they still do. But it isn't who we are. At some point, you have to say, I guess this is who we are. But he won't say it here.
To ask most Republicans and most Americans, do you think that divisiveness is a good thing? Do you think it's a good thing to set one group against another? Most people would say, no, that's not a good thing, and we have to keep the country together.
So did you see his answer to that 80% of the people support Trump in the Republican Party? His answer is, well, they probably support him for a lot of different reasons, but I think if you ask people, do you think it's a good idea to have divisive politics and pit one group? Most people would say no. What? What the F? That's your pushback to Donald Trump? I know most people support him, but if you ask people if they are for divisive politics or pitting one group against it, first of all, Democrats and Republicans are groups pitted against each other. So by definition, that's what our politics is. Groups pitted against each other. So now, and so immediately after being given one little fact that 80% of the people or 78% of the people in the Republican Party support him, he immediately crumbles. He immediately starts talking about nothing. He's like a politician. He says words, but they don't mean anything. Anything else? There's a little bit more to this.
Okay, well, the idea is really ultimately when he says, Donald Trump has corrupted our party. Donald Trump has put the ugly face on their politics, on their positions. Right. I mean, that's ultimately what's happening. I want a nicer face, maybe Pence.
Yes.
He's nice.
I want a nice face, like Ronald Reagan, who says nice things while demonizing poor black people. That's what I want.
We can't have his words be our words, because then we're going to have a harder time with our shitty actions. That's really the message here.
So there it is. There's the people the people supporting him. So your big idea is bullshit, trying to pretend this isn't who you are. And now, what about the elected
Senator,
people? He goes back to that. So now, what you call it,
Lawrence?
Lawrence O'Donnell is going to go back to that question of. He says now, after you wrote this op-ed, none of your colleagues in the Senate or in the House, did they call you? No, nobody called them. And so here we go.
People in elective office, I haven't heard anything.
He hasn't heard anything from people in elected office after he wrote that op-ed.
Wouldn't that be disappointing, Senator, if what your hope is to reclaim the Republican Party and be saying we have to make it clear that Donald Trump is not us? Wouldn't you like to have heard from some of your former colleagues in the Senate about that op-ed piece and said, at least privately say to you, you're right about this, we've got to figure out how to get this back?
Well, as far as people now active in politics, I think it's difficult for them. I mean, it's
very difficult to say we're not Trump because, we like winning. I mean, he's basically admitted that you can only have integrity if you're not up for re-election. Right? Listen.
Well, as far as people now active in politics, I think it's difficult for them. I mean, most people in politics want to win the next election,
and the rest of those people are called Democrats. Yes. Okay.
Say that a substantial part of your base consists of people who are very strongly for Trump. It's very difficult, I think, for people who are now active in elective politics, but for people who.
So basically, he's saying you can't have integrity if you're running for re-election. If you're up for election, I get it. If you're a Republican, you're up for election, you can't have integrity. And it's important for us to speak out, but it's difficult because we don't want to. Right? It's 2017, and for Republicans, distancing oneself from a Nazi sympathizer turns out that's a bad move politically. Distancing yourself from a Nazi sympathizer in 2017, a bad move politically for a Republican. This is what he's letting us know. This is literally what he's telling us, right, Ron?
Yeah.
Republicans only speak out if they... a lot of Republicans have something to lose, right? So they can't say anything. And of course we want to speak out against Trump, but we really we want the people who like him to vote for us, so we're going to lie. We're going to pretend we like him too. We're not going to say anything. He's revealing how empty politics is, basically, and he's basically saying how rotten the Republican Party. He's literally saying that. He's saying, no, not people who are in elected office or running. Those people couldn't possibly do the right thing or try to keep the country together, as he so ominously says. We're trying to keep the country together. And nobody in the Republican Party who's in elected office cares about that. They care more about their own reelection. So why wouldn't you call those motherfuckers out? Why wouldn't you call them out, but you're willing to call Trump out, but not the people who are standing with Trump? That's who you should be calling out. If you had guts, which he doesn't, which is why he's doing it like this. And believe me, if he was in elected office, he wouldn't be speaking out. He's only doing this because he doesn't have anything to lose. And he already told you that's the only time Republicans speak out.
I just like how they very diplomatically had such a disheartening conversation.
Yes.
Because this whole segment just could have been like, oh, Trump's a really, really terrible human being, and we really need to distance ourselves from him from a moral standpoint, and I'm the only one who can say that, so I have nothing to lose. And then Lawrence O'Donnell could have been like, it seems like none of your colleagues give a shit what you think. Doesn't that suck? Yeah, that really sucks.
Yeah,
end of segment.
That's it.
That was all.
What do you got? What is the Republican Party going to do about it? Nothing. You can only have integrity if you're not up for re-election. I think he has a little bit more to say.
Some distance from it, people like me who don't intend to run again. Is our voice as persuasive as those in elective politics today? No, it isn't. But I think that's the most likely source for Republicans to speak out, and it's very important for us to speak out.
I posted this article. I only got 3 likes on Facebook. I'm kind of depressed. I'm just sad.
It's such a sad. The whole thing is sad because he's trying to act like Joe Integrity, and he's coming out basically telling us that that none of the Republicans who are elected have any. Yeah, my party's basically morally bankrupt. Why? Well, we're not willing to do the right thing because we want to hold on to power. That's called craven. That's what that is. That's called a craven institution, a craven person, or just a politician. So it's good to remind. So Trump reminds us, and he's exposing people for what they really are: empty, craven politicians. Don't forget that politics attracts usually the most mediocre of people. We've shown you on this channel that even Barack Obama, who everyone considers to be a genius, was a buffoon and a stooge for corporate America. Didn't do anything he was supposed to do to make things better, which is why we frickin' got Trump. So there you go. I would tell Senator Danforth it's going to be tough. But sad day for you, huh? None of the people called you after that thing. We got to stand up. Turns out nobody's going to stand up. Turns out this is your party, and that's what you have to accept. This is the result of 40 years of Southern strategy. This is what happens. This is what happens when you suppress the vote of minorities across the country and you do it right out in the open. This is the result. So, and this is who your party is. Now, if you don't like it, go start another party. So that's what I wish people like him would do. Go have real guts. Go have real balls. Start another party. I'm sick of the goddamn Democrats. I'm up for Draft Bernie. I'm up for a third party. I voted for Jill Stein. I voted for a Green New Deal. I'm not voting for corporatist warmongers anymore. But apparently he will, but only if they're polite in public. Okay. That's just stunning. To me, that's stunning. Of course, nobody elected office is going to say anything. And he says it with a straight face, too. He says it with a straight face. Hey, everybody, we have 2 live Jimmy Dore shows in September. September 25th, we're in San Diego, and September 18th in Burbank, California. Get your tickets right there. There's a link right there.